Ever get that feeling? Like there's some kind of wisdom, maybe,
Yeah.
that you just can't quite pin down with your normal thinking.
Yeah, like something important is just out of reach.
Exactly. Well, welcome to the deep dive. We take sources you're curious about, and we sort of act as your guides.
Mm-hmm. Pulling out the big ideas, those aha
All
moments.
right, without you getting swamped in detail. Today, we're going way back.
Way back, we're diving into the cloud of unknowing. It's this really amazing mystical text from the 14th century, anonymous offhand.
Anonymous, yeah. And it's not just some dry old document. It gives this, well, unique glimpse into contemplative prayer.
Rooted in Christian Neoplatonism, which is fascinating in itself.
And, you know, it's apparently the first time these specific ideas were written down in English. Think about that, the very first expression in the language.
It had a huge impact, too. People like Dante, Thomas Aquinas, they were influenced by this stream of thought.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And the author, likely a monk, right? Carthusian.
Probably, yeah. Cloistered. But he wasn't just lost in prayer, you know? His writing shows he was really observant.
Oh.
Yeah, he even has this, like, dry sense of humor sometimes when describing people who maybe weren't quite so focused on contemplation.
Huh, okay. So you get a real sense of a person behind the words.
Definitely. Someone thoughtful, wrestling with these huge questions.
So our mission today, it's not really about getting tangled up in, like, heavy religious jargon.
No, not at all.
We want to pull out the core stuff from the cloud that might give you listening maybe a different angle on self-knowledge or on, you know, connecting with something bigger.
A different way in.
Okay, let's dive in then. This cloud of unknowing. What is it?
Okay, it's the central idea, isn't it? This darkness or cloud that's supposedly between us and God.
Okay, but not like a storm cloud.
Uh-huh, no, not literal. And it's not just ignorance, like not knowing facts. The author calls it a lacking of knowing.
A lack of knowing.
Yeah, something beyond what our intellect, our senses can really grasp. He connects it to how things we've forgotten or never knew seem dark to our ghostly eye.
Ghostly eye, like our intuition.
Kind of, yeah. Our spiritual awareness, maybe.
So it's not about learning more in the usual way. It's stepping into a place where our normal tools don't work.
Exactly. And the goal isn't to get rid of the cloud.
No.
No, it's to abide in this darkness, as he says, to stay there,
Okay.
by fostering what he calls a naked intent unto God.
Naked intent.
Yeah, it really focuses on the will, our deepest desire, not relying on figuring things out intellectually or even on feeling emotionally, sweet.
So it's about direction, where your inner self is pointed.
Precisely.
That brings up another term. Not comes up a lot. What's that about?
Not. Yeah, it describes the state of being nowhere bodily, but everywhere ghostly.
Nowhere bodily, everywhere ghostly. Sounds paradoxical.
It does. And for someone only focused on the physical, the senses, the intellect, what he calls the outer man, this whole thing might just seem like not, like nothing's happening.
Because it doesn't use the usual channels.
Right. It doesn't engage the senses or the rational mind in the way we expect. It's trying to get beyond those. It kind of resonates with modern ideas too, like presence or flow states, maybe, where the analytical mind takes a back seat.
Interesting parallel. But the text also says to wrestle with that blind knot. What's the wrestling part?
Ah, that's the active part. It's engaging the will, that waking desire to will to have God that no man may know.
So it's an effort.
A constant, gentle effort, turning away from distractions, from fleeting things, and focusing on that deeper, maybe wordless yearning.
Okay. But, I mean, anyone who's tried meditating knows. Thoughts just keep coming, nonstop.
Oh, yeah. The monkey mind.
How does the cloud suggest dealing with that? All the chatter.
It gives a really practical tool, actually. A word.
What?
Yeah, but not a long prayer, just one syllable. He gives examples like sin or God.
Okay. And what do you do with it?
You use it to gently beat on this cloud and to smite down all manner of thought under the cloud of forgetting.
Smite down thoughts.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit aggressive.
Maybe the language is strong, but the idea is more like a gentle nudge, a way to just redirect your focus whenever a thought pops up, like an anchor.
Okay, like a mantra, maybe?
That's a really good comparison, yeah. Something simple to return to.
So wait, even thoughts that seem good, like thinking about God's kindness or Christ's suffering or maybe your own faults, those can be distractions too.
In this specific practice, yes, absolutely.
Oh, really? But aren't those important parts of spirituality?
They are, and the text acknowledges that. They have their place in what it calls the lower levels of spiritual life, both active and contemplative, But for this specific work, piercing the cloud,
You have to leave them behind.
you have to be willing to let them go, yeah. If they pull you away from that simple, blind stirring of love.
Blind stirring of love.
hmm The text warns about getting caught up in the sharp and clear beholding of thy natural wit, your intellect.
But isn't our intellect good? A gift?
It is. He calls it a beam of the likeness of God. But it can also lead to pride, intellectual curiosity for its own sake, and that can block this deeper connection.
Wow. That's quite counterintuitive for a lot of approaches, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Focusing on positive thoughts is usually seen as good.
It is, generally. But here the goal is different. It's moving beyond the intellect, beyond specific thoughts and even specific emotions,
Okay.
to a more direct, maybe intuitive connection. So even good thoughts can keep you stuck in mental processing rather than in that state of, well, unknowing love.
It really does sound like the focus shifts completely from
Yeah.
thinking about God to just loving.
You've got it. The text says, love may reach to God in this life, but not knowing.
Love reaches, knowing doesn't.
In this ultimate sense, yeah. This blind stirring of love unto God for himself, for God's own sake, is valued way more than intellectual understanding or nice feelings.
It's about the core of your being, deeper than thought.
Exactly.
And that connects to the idea of a goodwill, doesn't it?
Yes, centrally. The author flat out says, the substance of all perfection is naught else but a good will.
Everything else is secondary.
Pretty much. Comforts, feelings, insights. Those are accidents, he calls them. The core thing is that fundamental direction of your will towards the divine.
Hmm.
He even talks about chaste love, which means being okay with not having those nice feelings or sensible comforts, if that's God's will. It shows a deeper, less self-serving love.
Like a kind of spiritual maturity, maybe. You're not doing it just for the good feeling.
Exactly. Trusting the deeper process, even when it doesn't feel great or give you obvious rewards.
That makes a certain kind of sense. Now, the language,
Oh,
ghostly and bodily, it sounds a bit, well, medieval and maybe spooky.
Yeah, the language is definitely of its time. But it's really important not to take it literally, not in a bodily way. The author warns against it specifically, especially words like in and up. He says, don't physically strain, don't stare upwards, don't imagine God as a physical being in a specific spot in the sky.
So ghostly doesn't mean ghosts.
No, think spiritual or
Right.
inner, the part of us that's beyond just the physical body and the rational mind.
Got it. So when he talks about going up to heaven or being in God, it's not about location.
Not physical location, no.
Yeah.
He says, heaven ghostly is as nigh down as up.
Down is up.
Yeah. And the path there is run by desires and not by paces of feet. It's an inner journey.
So forget time, place, body.
In all ghostly working, yes, that's the instruction. He even uses biblical examples like St. Martin's vision or Christ's ascension to show that even those physical seeming events had deeper ghostly meanings. They weren't just instructions on how to stand or where to look when you pray.
Right, okay. The text also mentions the powers of the soul briefly. Why bring those up?
Well, it's drawing on the traditional understanding of the soul back then. Things like memory, reason, will, imagination, sensuality.
Okay.
The main point is just to explain how we can get confused if we don't realize these different parts of us function differently in the physical, bodily world versus the spiritual, ghostly realm.
Yeah, and memory includes the others.
He sort of presents it that way, yeah. But the key takeaway is that the outer man, the part focused on senses and intellect, is naturally going to find this not baffling.
Because our outer senses are for outer things.
Exactly. Not designed for directly perceiving the divine in this way.
Okay. We've talked about this deep, focused work, but he also mentions short prayer and says it pierceth heaven. Why would short prayer be so powerful?
Because, according to the text, it's prayed with a full spirit.
A full spirit.
Yeah, it involves your whole being, your height, depth, length, breadth, everything focused into one concise expression. He gives the example of someone yelling, fire.
Ah, okay. Like sheer focused urgency.
Exactly. All of you is in that one short cry. That's the idea.
Another concept that seems important is meekness. How does that fit in?
Meekness here is defined as a true knowing and feeling of a man's self as he is.
Knowing yourself truly.
Yeah. And it comes from seeing your own, frailty and limitations, but also recognizing the overabundant love and the worthiness of God.
So it's relational.
Very much so. He distinguishes between imperfect meekness, just being aware of your own flaws,
Right.
and perfect meekness, which is being totally focused on God, forgetting yourself.
Right.
The work of the cloud is meant to cultivate that perfect meekness through love, shifting the focus off yourself.
Okay. This sounds intense
Yeah.
and very specific. Is this path meant for just anyone?
The text is pretty upfront about that. No.
No.
It says it's really for those who've already made a serious commitment, who've forsaken the world and a true will, and feel drawn specifically to contemplative life.
Not for people mainly focused on, say, good works in the world, or purely intellectual study.
Not primarily, no. He actually warns off people he calls fleshly janglers, or just curious folks, whether educated or not, who don't have the right inner disposition.
You need the right mindset, the right intention.
Yeah. A real turning away from worldly stuff as your main focus.
So just finding these ideas cool or interesting isn't really the sign you're called to it.
Apparently not. He says it's more than finding it good and liking.
What are the signs then?
Well, having already done work on your conscience, cleaning things up there, and feeling this persistent primary pull towards this privy little love pressed, he calls it, like it's the core thing for you.
Privy little love pressed.
Yeah. And another sign he mentions is feeling more drawn to it, more fervent about it after you've been away from the practice or faced difficulties with it.
Oh, interesting. Like resistance actually confirms the pull.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
It suggests it resonates deeply. It's not just a passing fancy.
Wow, okay. This has been really fascinating, diving into such an old but clearly potent text.
It really is something.
So to kind of wrap up our deep dive here,
Mm-hmm.
what are the main takeaways?
Mhm.
What should you, our listener, really hold on to from The Cloud of Unknowing?
I think fundamentally it offers this unique path for seeking connection that deliberately steps beyond the intellect.
Right, beyond just thinking our way there.
Yeah, it really highlights the power of our will, our intention, the absolute importance of love, and crucially, the need to let go of distractions.
Even the good ones.
Even the seemingly holy ones, if they block that direct, loving attention, it really pushes for a ghostly, a spiritual way of understanding that goes beyond the physical and the mental boxes we usually operate in.
So it's less about figuring it all out
Much less.
and more about opening up to a different kind of knowing, a knowing that's maybe felt or willed through love and intention.
Beautifully put. It's a reminder, isn't it, that sometimes the deepest connections aren't found in what we can grasp and define, but in what we're willing to release, to let go of, into that cloud of unknowing.
That's definitely a thought to sit with. Maybe consider, how that idea of unknowing could apply elsewhere in life. Where else do we seek understanding or connection? Are there times when maybe letting go of that need to define, to control, to know in the usual way could actually open up more insight?
Powerful question.
Something to ponder. We definitely encourage you to explore the cloud of unknowing itself if this sparks something for you. See which bits of this ancient wisdom resonate with your own path.